Hey guys, welcome back to my video series where I'm going through all the challenges in my book, The C# Player's Guide. In this video, we're going to be doing the Simula's test challenge that deals with enumerations. There's a whole long story here, but the idea is we want to create represent this chest that can go through these different states. Does it say what it starts in? So it starts in this locked state, it looks like, and we can type in commands unlock, open, close, we should, like, if we're locked and we type unlock, we should move to closed. If we're in closed and we type open, we should go to open. If we're in closed and we type lock, then we should go to lock state. I, this is a little bit deeper than what this challenge needs to do, but this is a state machine. If that means anything to you, or if it doesn't mean anything to you now, you're going to run into these things called state machines someday. It's not really a programming thing, but maybe this is just one type of state machine, I guess. And this is a pretty simple state machine as far as state machines go. But in these state machine diagrams, you've listed out all of your different states, and you list your transitions, and you're able to kind of walk through those different transitions as over time. So let's just dive into this. I'm going to scoot this to the other screen so I can still see it. You guys probably have it in front of you as well in your book, but we'll just start going through this. So the first objective is to define an enumeration for the state of the chest. And I'm going to type this in here so, we've got a basic program. And then I'm just going to come down here and make an enumeration for the state of the chest. Now I'm going to bring the diagram back. Remember that the state of the chest is this open, closed, locked, not the close, lock, open, unlock. These are these things here, the transitions are typically verbs. So this is closed. It's a state that it's in versus close. But so that's we wanted the enumeration for the big black circles, not the verbs, the actions that are going to happen. So chest state, and this is going to be opened, closed, and locked. Enumerations go at the bottom of the file here, but after your main method and all your other methods. Once you, and this, because that's the thing that people get wrong a lot, once you make a type, you can't go back to more statements. Like we can do, many statements here. We can do that. And when we did methods before, we were able to actually define methods kind of in the middle of stuff. I, in the book, suggest that you put it down here at the bottom. I feel like, your plain old statements and then your methods down below, and then, your types. So you kind of go from like the highest level statements to these bigger and bigger chunks of stuff that go farther down off the page eventually, if you get enough statements in here. But like, this method definition can go after the statements, or it can go in the middle of the statements, or it can go at the beginning. That is not true when you're making a type. And when we do this, we're defining a brand new type. Like int, like bool, like byte, like string, we're defining a type. But once you start making types, then you can't go back to other statements. So I can't put this down here. The compiler would give me an error. Top level statements must precede namespace and type declarations. So this thing here that we've got, this console.writeLine high, is a top level statement because it doesn't live in anything else. That makes it top level. And it's saying that has to come before you start making a type declaration, which this enumeration is. That's what we've done here. The other possibility here, though, is you could make another file for it, and so you could, like, there's a bunch of ways you could do that, and the book covers this later. I see a lot of people who are like, I don't want to shove it all in one place. I want to split it into multiple files. So I'm gonna just kind of point out a couple ways you do that. You can just say new file, It'll give you this thing that'll say, well, okay, what kind of file do you want? And there is a C# class here. Is there any enumeration? I wonder if there's any enumeration. I don't see one. You can come in here and you can say, I'm gonna just see if there's an enumeration. Nope. I want to say there was maybe 10 years ago. Not that it matters, but you can, because I mean, you can say C# class, and then you can say, I love that it says open and not new. Whatever, open. And now it just dumps all this stuff in here. And if you do this, then what you want to do is just delete this. That will make more sense in a couple of chapters when we start dealing with classes, making classes. But you can just put this over in here. If you're going to do that, you might want to pick it. Oh, well, that was interesting. It actually hasn't saved that anywhere. That I feel that's surprising me. I that I made that, and it doesn't like show up in the list over here yet. Not until I hit save, and I can say save class 2, and now it does show up in here. So until you hit save. Anyway, so typically if you're going to put new types in files, you make the file name match. So in this case, this would maybe be called the cheststate.cs. And some people like putting every single one of their files, every single one of their types in their own file. So you would have a cheststate.cs because you have a cheststate enumeration. That used to be more common 15 years ago than it is now. These days, there's a lot of different ways you can create new types that are very, very tiny, and it's become more common to put multiple types in a single file than it used to be. But anyway, so I can do that, and I can say save, and now I've got multiple files in here. Though I'm actually going to not do that. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to delete that. And just get back to where we were. So I'm going to close these out, and I'm just going to do it all in one file. This program is so small, in my opinion, it doesn't deserve lots and lots of files. By the time you get done with the book, you will have made some programs that definitely deserve multiple files, but probably not this one. So it's up to you if you want to do separate files. You definitely don't need to. I'm going to typically just keep it all in one for these the smaller challenges that don't usually. I mean, they usually aren't more than, I don't know, 50, maybe 100 lines max, and that's not too big of a file. So anyway, a little tangent there, but we've defined our enumeration. So now we can use this, make a variable whose type is this enumeration. So with just that much right there, we've done that. It's just like any other variable, only the type name that we use is the name of our enumeration type. So we just stick that in here. Like it's not. We're used to ones that turn blue, like the keyword. It turns blue. They're all keywords, and this one won't be that way. But for example, that's not unlike the console class. Like when we say console, when we do console, like it's just a type that isn't a keyword. Same with like the console color thing, which is actually an enumeration. Anyway, so chest state. We've made our variable, and that's the second objective. Write code to allow you to manipulate the state with the lock, unlock, open, and close commands, but ensure that you don't transition between states that don't support it. Loop forever, asking for the next command. All right, so let's assign this a value to start. And the example starts in the lock state. That seems as good to me as anything. So I'm going to start it there. And then it says loop forever, asking for the next command. So I'm just going to say while true. We're not actually going to give ourselves a way out of this other than to hit the X on the program. We could make it so there's some way to say, like, you could type in stop or exit or something like that, and we could exit. That's not required for this challenge, so I'm going to not worry about that. I'll just hit the X or the stop button up here in the toolbar. So while true, and what we're going to do is console.writeLine. So the chest is I'm going to do that, except I am going to use the string interpolation. So I'm going to put the little $sign at the beginning of this, and I'm going to then put this in curly braces, so it'll just take that state, whatever it is, and put it in here. The chest is whatever its current state is. What do you want to do? Now, this is one of those areas that I wish the book had a little more content around, and I expect that future editions of the book will. In the back of my mind, I'm planning on fleshing this out a little bit more for in the future. Just this information about how do you like go from an enumeration value to like text to be displayed on the screen, and same like in reverse. Like how do you go from text that the user typed to an enumeration? So I plan on adding some content to that. In fact, I did write a blog post about it. Let me find that here really quick. All right, so I found it's on the blog, and you could come in here and just go to the website, csharpplayersguide.com, click on the blog, and then right now it's not too far down, though I'm sure there'll be more blog posts. Was this one, parsing enumerations? If you want to see that, I'll see if I can get that into the description of the YouTube video. But parsing enumerations, and this just talks through, how do you convert text to enumeration values and going the other way. And there's a lot of stuff here that it's probably worth reading. So you consider this like extra material. Like I said, it's extra, but at least some of this I'm going to put into the book in the future. But it's like you can go look at it right now and just kind of see how it's done. And there's a bunch of options in here for it too. So this is, I think, good reading, and maybe we'll touch on some of this as we go in this challenge or the next one. Then, in fact, there's quite a few challenges in the future that will use enumerations. So, all right. So the chest is whatever the state is. What do you want to do? And then there's a couple. I wanted to change this to just be right, so that the input is on that same line. And then we'll do console.read line to get what their response is, and store it in this choice variable. And I'm gonna just run it like that right now. We haven't done the hard part yet, but I just want to point this out. So the chest is locked, and this is like capitalized locked, right? So this is related to what I was mentioning about inputs, like converting between like human inputs and enumerations, or enumerations and like text that's displayed on the screen. So I want to touch on that just a little bit here, since it's popping up. The chest state is locked. This is mostly fine, other than the capitalization, right? Like it's weird to have that capitalization in there. The first thing I want to say is, if you leave this, if you just to say we're just going to leave it that way, it's fine for the types of work you're doing right now. It's fine if that's capitalized like that. You don't feel like you need to worry about it. And if you want to skip ahead to the next little section in here, you should do that, because the rest of this is just going to kind of, for the next, I don't know how long it'll be, minute or two, I'm going to kind of talk about that a little bit. But you could just leave it capitalized like that. One thing I do see, though, is people will say, well, I don't want that capitalized. So let's talk about how it decides whether to capitalize it. Anytime that like you ask C# to like embed, like anytime you're dealing with data, like one of these values, open, close, locked, and you want to turn it into a string, like for like every value has this option to like turn it into a string, whether that's a number or a bool value or a character or like a double or a float or whatever it is. Every single thing has the ability to be turned into a string. And when you make your own types, you often have some control over how those should be turned into text. However, you don't get a choice with enumerations. Enumerations will always take whatever you called it in code and use that name. So I've seen a lot of people who will say, well, I don't want that capitalized, so I'm going to call this locked, and I'm going to call this closed. I'm going to call this open, and that would mean I got to change this here to locked. This version of it, like, this isn't bad. It, other than enumeration values are by convention, like in C sharp programmers capitalize these the way I just had that. It's always capitalized, the upper camel case, or I think it's also called Pascal case, but it's easy for me to remember upper camel case because it starts with an upper capital letter. And if you got multiple words, then they each get capitalized as well. So, so these values here start to illustrate some of the complexities with just how the fact that this will just straight up take whatever the name is in the code and just display it. Is sometimes these names aren't really what you want to display. The chest is open chest, like that's what it would do now. But you also don't want, the chest is locked chest. Yeah, so but you also don't want to like name your code elements the same thing that like whatever it's displayed as in the user interface, even if it is just this console user interface. And the reason for that is it could be displayed very different in different circumstances. And there may not be one way for it to be displayed in the UI. So the kind of the I don't know, the other way to handle this would be something like we just take care of it ourselves. A string state name equals, and I'm going to use a switch, and switches and enumerations very, very often go together, especially if you're doing this like conversion back and forth between like some text and an enumeration value, or an enumeration value to text. So and I'm going to use a switch expression here just because it'll do the trick. And it's nice and simple. And we're just, this is just going to be like a mapping. We're just going to say, if it's I need chest state dot opened chest. Chest state dot closed. Something like that. So I just take all my options for the enumeration and kind of do this mapping. It was this and that. These should all become this. And you can imagine going the other way, and maybe you can imagine going the other way too, that if you wanted somebody to be able to type in some text and to convert it the other direction, that you could do this just in reverse. But now this gives me the option to say, look, yes, it's called locked chest down here, but I don't want to call it that. I want to call it sealed. The chest is sealed. Or whatever it is that you want it to be, like the thing that's displayed in the UI and the thing that it's named in code don't have to match, but you do need to change back and forth between it. So this is how I would typically approach this, and now you can see. Oh, I was confused for a second there. I don't want state, I want state name. Try that again. The chest is sealed. So that allows me to have any sort of control that I actually want over this just by using a little switch. And sometimes I'll put that in a method. Like that's a really good candidate for a method. But what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go back to what we had, and I am just going to, I'm going to live with the capitalization. I'm not too worried about that for right now. I've like what I just described of just having a switch that'll just like convert it. That I do that in programs all over the place. So that's a pretty typical way to deal with that. All right, so let's get to. So I'll just right now just live with the capitalization. I think it conveys what it needs to, just fine. So the one thing we need to do is like, given the state we're in, and given the state that we're in, which is this, and given the input, we want to do something about it. And like if you look at the kind of the sample output, like the people are going to type in unlock, open, close, like these close, lock, unlock, open, those 4 options. So what we'll do is we'll just say, so if we're in the locked state and the choice is unlock, then we're going to transition to the closed but unlocked state. And else if state equals chest state dot. So now we just basically need, for each of these 4 transitions, we need one of these. So if we're in the chest state dot opened and the choice is close, state equals chest state dot closed. Else if we're in the chest state dot closed state and choice is open, state equals opened. Else if state equals chest state dot closed and choice equals lock, state equals chest state dot locked. That actually should be enough to solve the challenge. What chest is locked? What do you want to do? Unlock. Oops. Unlock. Open. Close. Lock. So we've been through everything, and if I try and if I try and do something that I can't do, like open when it's locked, then I just don't make a transition to the other state. And if I type in garbage, nothing happens either. Like, this is handling things pretty well already. A couple of things that might be nice as little bonuses is it'd be kind of nice if I did do something like this, that it would like tell me that it's not working. Or if I type in garbage, that it's like, hey, that's not okay. And another thing that might be nice is, what if I type in that? So let's add a couple of little extra features here. The first one, we just need an else here, and this should just be console.writeLine. You can't do that right now. Now if I restart this and I type in garbage, you can't do that right now. But also if I say open, so if it's locked and I need to unlock it first and then open it, that it tells me I can't do it right now. I could see wanting to like differentiate a legitimate command that can't be done right now from garbage. And so one thing we could do is we could say else if choice equals unlock or choice equals lock or choice equals open or choice equals, what am I missing? Lock, unlock, open, close. So if they did enter in good stuff, then we want to say you can't do that right now, else console.writeLine. Oops, what happened? Else console.writeLine. I don't understand that. So now I think we should be able to get, so now if we say open, you can't do that right now, but if I give it garbage, I don't understand that. So it at least tells you you've got a legitimate command. It just isn't something that you can do right now. So that's maybe all there is for that one. I did want to the capitalization thing, if you type in like all caps unlock, and there are ways that you can, like this right here. So if choice double equals lowercase unlock, like we could do something like let's just kind of focus on that. So we could say else if choice is unlock, and another thing we could do is we could say, well, like what if it's capitalized like unlock? Like we could handle all those cases, and that would like now we're handling those cases where it's capitalized differently. There are some better ways to do it. Like we could say if choice equals unlock or choice equals unlock or choice equals unlock. So if it's locked and it matches any of these, if it's unlocked all lowercase, unlocked all uppercase, unlocked with a capital U, then it works. Now let me come in here and I can show that unlock. So now it's closed. So it was okay that I did that. But there's another way that you could do this as well. Like I could just leave it as just this lowercase unlock. And what I could do is I could just come up here and I could say, what I could do is I could say, we're going to take this choice equals choice. So whatever it was, and we're going to say there's a method here called toLower. And this says whatever we got, we're going to make everything lowercase. And then store. So remember strings, like you can't like change a string that exists. So like this creates a new string that's different from the original one, and we're just going to update the variable. So whatever the capitalization was before, we're going to forget about it, and we're going to use this version that has toLower. So it'll have everything, and it's going to be lowercase. There's one area that I'm going to completely sidestep other than to just briefly mention it here, and that is the concept of upper and lowercase depends on the language and the culture that you're in. And like there's this toLower, like it just kind of ignores that. There are things you can do if you need that nuance to like bring the either a specific like culture, which includes the language and a bunch of stuff, and or you can use basically whatever the operating system is reporting as its current culture, and it can tell you, this is for this culture, we're gonna toLower it and compare it that way. So, so we're using the invariant culture, which is basically English. It's kind of us English speakers have a tendency to think the world revolves around us when it doesn't. So that's an example of it. Like the invariant culture is English. I'm sorry for all you people who English is not your first language. But they do need something that's like, this is just like guaranteed to work the same no matter where on the planet you are, how your computer's set up. And so they need something that's invariant, and they need something to be that default. And they had to pick something, right? So anyway, so if I call toLower, now I've updated the choice variable. It contains a new string that has everything lowercaseified using the invariant culture, and now basically all of these other checks are gonna they will all, like it doesn't matter what capitalization I do. So if I do unlock like that, then it's closed, and if I do open, then it works. Like now it doesn't matter the casing. The other way I could have done this is there's a equals. I'm winging this here. Let's see if it, yeah. So there's another thing I could do here. I could say equals unlock, and then I could do string comparison dot invariant culture So there's like these invariant culture ignore case. Like I could just say string comparison dot invariant culture ignore case. Another close paren here. So that's another way you could do it instead of this to lower. I kind of, I don't know, like this flavor does not modify my variable, so I can still see what it once was. I kind of like that's probably the officially more correct way to do it. That you should call it, instead of the double equals, you should call the dot equals method. But that's a whole other thing. So anyway, this is a very simple way to do it. To just, and I mean, you could do two upper. There's a two upper, and you can just make all these, all uppercase if you want to. Either way, but all right. So those two tangents aside, we've handled, honestly, with those two little side quests, if you want to call it that, aside, we've done quite a bit more than what the challenge was actually asking for. And which is like a lot of people end up doing that. I've seen enough people solve this challenge, but and they very often do some of those things like this, the two lower, or some of this output. And I've seen also people, like, we've made this very short where it's just like if, else if, and we just update the state. I've seen people want to turn this into not just like a simple if and then a single statement, but curly braces, and because they want to be able to change it to the new state, and then they want to be able to like say the door's now unlocked, or that's not a door, it's a chest. So I've seen people want to do, like, this program could be a lot bigger than what we've got here if you want to add in extra features, but this is already way more than enough. And with that, I think I'm going to call it for this video, and I'll see you guys next time.